Welcome to the Lakers Central podcast, where I usually discuss the most famous basketball franchise on the planet. But today we're discussing something that's a bit more important than the Lakers, racism in America, more specifically, what our responsibility is as Black people in media to address social issues. I'm joined by three people I've connected with on my journey as a content creator and feel their experiences as Black Americans in this country within media as well will prove helpful in helping me lead this conversation. So, first, let me introduce Nia Sapp, host of the In the Clutch podcast and editor for NBA TV and CNN Sports. Hey, Nia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Second, I want to add Melvin Taylor, host of Alternative Road podcast and the Alt with Mel radio show on WHCR 903. What's going on, Mel?
What's up, man? Thank you so much for having me on today. Greatly appreciate it.
Oh, no doubt. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome Renee Washington, host of Beyond the Headlines and reporter for ESPN and Fox Sports. Hey, Renee, how are you? We lost Renee for a second, but she'll be back in. And if you don't know who I am by now, I'm Alex Hollingsworth, founder and host of Laker Central and the co-host of Off the Record. So again, I want to welcome everybody to the live stream. I appreciate you doing this with me. On May 25th, Officer Derek Chauvin held his knee to the neck of George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, resulting in George Floyd's murder. So since then, we've had protests happening all around the world, drawing attention to police brutality and racism. We don't go a few days without there being video footage, hitting the internet of, someone highlighting the unequal treatment that we face as Black people in America. And I think there's an expectation for Black celebrities, Black athletes to condemn this treatment and use their platforms to help dismantle racism. But the four of us all have platforms as well. And so I wanted to bring you guys on to talk about what our responsibility is in using these platforms. So first, what I'm going to do is just ask you, how are you feeling on a personal level right now with so much going on? And Nia, you're welcome to go first.
Honestly, of course, this week has been very heavy. Being a Black woman, of course, just being Black, period, we all kind of know what we face day in and day out. And so when I saw that video, I'm numb to it. I'm numb because we have day in and day out, we have my ancestors, 400 plus years, we've dealt with oppression, we've dealt with racism. And at this point, it's just like enough is enough, but words just can't even describe, how I feel. I'm heartbroken. I'm upset. But I'm also in high spirits because I see that we as a Black culture, we're starting to wake up now. And now it's like we are using our platforms to peacefully protest. We're speaking out on social media. We're holding people accountable now. And I hate that it took all of this for us to do this, but we have to keep going. And in the midst of it all, just to see the positivity of it, I feel that change is coming. But we as people have to continue to keep the pressure on. So despite the unforeseen circumstances with George Floyd's death, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, I hate that it had to take all of this, but I'm all right.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing okay and you're holding on, much like I think all four of us are. Melvin, how do you feel right now, just personally, with everything going on in America?
Honestly, man, it's just been a feeling of frustration that's grown so much over the past couple of years, because I remember that this feels a little bit like 2016 before Donald Trump was elected as president. I just remember that summer that there were videos on videos of people being just hurt brutalized, murdered on camera by police officers. And after every one, I felt just less and less of hope of anything was going to happen.
Mhm.
And I haven't even been able to watch the full George Floyd video because ever since the Trayvon Martin verdict, like I remember being in Chicago and watching it on TV and hearing about it and just saying that like they don't care. It doesn't matter what happens, what people say, how old you are, as long as you're black, nobody just gives a crap what's going to happen to you. So it's really like it's inspiring to see so many people out there right now to see that they're fighting for what we need to have happen and what should have had happen. But similar to what Nia was saying, it's disappointing that it had to take all of this for it to be able to occur. But hopefully things will be able to improve. Right now, I just want change to be able to happen.
Renee, how are you feeling on a personal level with the social unrest, with the blatant racism that seems to be in our faces now? Just how are you feeling?
Yeah, I think to go back to, the points that Melvin and Nia were saying is just, for me at 27 years old as a double minority, I always tell people I'm reminded of that every day. This is something that is devastating. It's emotional. It's heart-wrenching, but unfortunately it's not surprising. You talk about Trayvon Martin and you talk about all the number of cases that we've seen that have not the person gets off. You've seen a lot of stories that have been popping up lately of cases that were swept under the rug completely. So it's exhausting to know that this fight, it's going to take so much more time. We've come so far. Don't get me wrong. We're no longer slaves. We're no longer dealing with segregation. And I was telling people, like, I no longer have to worry about a sign telling me where I can drink from a water fountain or go to the bathroom. But at the end of the day, the racism, the sexism, the discrimination, the pure hatred because you look different is still there. And that is the hardest part of all this, because I've been having so many conversations with people. So one of the positives out of all this is the fact that a lot of people have been reaching out, asking questions. We've been engaging in conversation about what it's like to be a Black woman in America or whatever their background is. But on the other hand, I still see more and more people, whether it's celebrities like Drew Brees or just ordinary people, that are coming out with these blatantly racist, ignorant statements, and just remind you that we have so far to go. There's so many people that are uneducated about what it's like to be a minority in this country. So it's encouraging in the fact that I feel like with social media, I know down in DC, they painted the Black Lives Matter on one of the streets. Like, we've been seeing all these different things on social media that's showing, okay, maybe this is a time we are actually moving towards change. But then on the other hand, you are reminded just how far we still have to go. And it's exhausting being Black in America. And this is just something that just weighs on you for that reason, because it's every time I turn around, I see a video or a picture or a post of someone else, someone's brother, someone's son, someone's sister, mother, being just completely disrespected, violently treated. I just was watching a video of a woman that was murdered in police custody. No, it was swept under the rug. And I was watching the video, and it's hard. It's hard knowing that this could be one of us, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. The fear is genuine. As a Black woman, I'm terrified. Sitting in my place, I'm terrified that someone's going to come busting through my door and have, oops, wrong place, wrong time. Didn't mean to do that. What does that bring back Breonna Taylor? Or that I'm going to go for a jog and someone's going to feel threatened by me and feel the need to attack me or worse, kill me. Does that bring back Ahmaud Arbery? So it's just exhausting. It's scary. And I'm just hoping this is a time for change, if nothing else.
Man, exhausting. You hit that on the head. It's always felt exhausting to be a Black person in America, despite the progress that was made before we were all born and the progress that's still taking place. And I've thought about it a lot this week. My real job, so to speak, I'm a banker. I've been in banking and finance for 17 years. And my job sends out these corporate responses about diversity. And I just like to say blah, 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 because that's all it really is to me. And I felt like I'm the only Black person on my team at my bank. And no one has reached out and said, hey, just how are you feeling? Right. Like throughout this whole time with the coronavirus, my boss and other people have reached out. Well, how are you handling? How's your family? But this thing that goes on with racism in America, no one has asked, hey, how are you doing with that on top of the pandemic, on top of all these other things that you have to deal with just as an adult, right? And so there have been a couple days this week where I've just been like, I just feel so tired. And I don't even know why I feel tired outside of this is just, it's great that social media exists to bring attention to these things, but then just seeing it over and over weighs me down. And you mentioned, Renee, that we're no longer slaves, right? We're no longer segregated the way that our grandparents and great grandparents, how they had to live in America. But we do live in a different America than white people, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if how educated you are as a black person, how much money you have as a black person, how likable you are as a black person. We live in two different Americas. So why in 2020, 60 years after the civil rights movement, why is it that we're still in two different Americas? And Renee, I'll start with you.
I am honestly, that is something that I cannot wrap my head around. I honestly had someone that commented these ignorant statements to me, attacking me because I support the Black Lives Matter movement, because in their mind, I was supporting violence, looting, rioting because I'm supporting Black Lives Matter, even though we've all stressed time and time again, the purpose and the mission of this is for equality. We're not encouraging violence. We're not encouraging looting. That's not all Black Lives Matter that's doing that either. It's a lot of people with their own agenda. And through my defense of that, the person actually attacked me and said, my 4-year-old is smarter than you. You're dumb. You're a kid. You're a child. You don't know what you're talking about. I have a master's degree. I'm 27 years old. I've accomplished a lot in my lifetime as an athlete, as a reporter. So to attack my intelligence, to attack my academics and education, to attack who I am as a person because you disagree with me is the reason why we're fighting this in the first place. And I think the biggest thing I keep telling people is we're no longer getting lynched, but we're still getting murdered publicly. It's the same exact type of killing and the same exact type of treatment. It's just a different victim and it's a different method. But we haven't fully changed. We're still living in a very different America. And even down to, there are people in this country that are ignorant, and there are people in this country that really have no concept of what it's like for us. And Drew Brees' statements definitely show that. There are a lot of people that think that way. I've had a lot of people that have said, well, why is it that you protest whenever a police officer kills a black person, but you don't protest black on black crime? You don't protest abortion. I'm like, whoa. I mean, how many, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things going on in our country that are wrong. A lot of violence, abuse, drug addiction, all types of crimes. We are focusing in this specific movement on the inequality and social injustice in our country. That is it. So to be ignorant, to use one crime to downplay another crime, it's just exactly why we are in this predicament in the first place, because our lives are not valued. If you don't see the issue with George Floyd's death, because people are killing each other and black people are killing each other, that's why we're fighting. If you think it's okay for a cop to kill a black person because black on black crime exists, that's why we're fighting. So there's so much of a gap that still needs to be filled. We're still catching up. We're still behind in a lot of ways, academically, economically. The black community is behind. And it started because we didn't come to this country by our own free will and be given a fair opportunity. We came to this country as property that was looked at as less than a dog to help people's plantations. So don't act like because slavery is over, suddenly now we caught up. No, we're still very behind. My mom grew up with crosses burning on her front yard. That's the next generation up. So for us, we are hopefully part of the change, but when you look at all that's still going on in the country, I think people just assume now that we have rights and now that we have, on paper, we're seen as Americans and equality and we have the same rights as a woman as every other man. And no, there's still a lot to catch up on. So I've been attacked for my academics and who I am as a person because I simply want equality and justice and peace. Yes, there's a long way to go. The gap is still there. We're very much in two different Americas. And all that we've been seeing around Colin Kaepernick, the NFL, Drew Brees, so everything just shows that.
I think we live in two different Americas because they don't have to live in the one that we do, right? Whenever we get a little close, they move away, right? Like physically, right? And so someone like Drew Brees that you just referenced, and I'm going to get into his comments as we go through the show. But one of the things that jumps out about the kind of comments that he makes is you don't have to have a master's degree or a PhD to understand what's going on in the world. There's this thing called Google, right? Like you can literally Google anything, and statistics from universities, from your own federal government are available that shows how we're treated versus white people, right? So that there's willful ignorance there. And Nia, I'm curious on your thoughts as well. I mean, we all live in, in areas that have a lot of Black people, New York, New Jersey, Maryland. Why is it that we're in two different Americas?
It's lack of accountability is number one, lack of education, lack of everything. I feel as though they never valued us enough to even understand our struggles, our pain. You see that now where people are very, well, why don't you do this? Well, why don't you do that? It's not that easy for Black people. And I think that people don't understand that. And it's just the fact that now, to me, it's just ignorance, because the power of social media, like you said earlier, the power of Google, you can literally go and Google history and facts. And not to mention, as Black people, a lot of our history has been destroyed because they didn't want us to know who we really are as a culture, as a race. And so when you live in a different world, now I grew up in a predominantly Black community my entire life. I've only went to school with Black people. My first time ever going to a diverse setting or anything was when I went to my 2-year school in Miami. Other than that, went to HBCUs, predominantly Black community. So from my standpoint, I wouldn't know what it's like to grow up to be white. I never will. But am I ignorant? Am I thinking like, oh, well, they do it this way, so everybody has to do it that way? It just never makes it never makes sense to me. And then they try and justify it. Well, you shouldn't feel this way. You shouldn't protest. Right. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Our whole lives have been controlled. Black people can't do this. Black people can't do that. Let the Patriots lose the Super Bowl. Guess who's out there protesting? Guess who's out there looting? Guess who's out there putting cars on fire? Or just a couple of weeks ago, everybody's upset that the country's not opening back up. You're going to them with guns, ARs, everything. Are they tear gassed?
Yep.
Are they being shot with rubber bullets? Are your deaths being recorded on the phone? You go to trial and those people are found not guilty. So it's ignorant now. It's just completely ignorant. And everyone wants to have this blindfold. Ernie Johnson, he said a great point about Drew Brees using the American flag as a blindfold.
Yep.
It's no more of that, because now it's being shown on social media. And so are we going to continue to ignore it? It's ignorance.
One of the things that we have to do as Black people is learn both Americas, right? Like there's a thing called code switching, right? How we behave at work versus how we behave when it's all Black people, right? They don't have to learn any of that stuff. And one of the things that bothers me is when they say, well, how come, like, for example, if it's another minority, or my grandparents, they came here with nothing and they bootstrapped and they worked their way up. And no one came to this country the same way our ancestors came to this country. Like no experience even remotely comes close. And so to reduce our struggle to, well, you guys need to work harder, or you guys need to, when the officer tells you to do something, just obey. Listen, I've been around a lot of white boys who said a lot of crazy shit to cops, and those cops did not react the way that they do to us, right? Like it's crazy. So Mel, I see you laughing, man. Like what's going on?
Man, honestly, I'm laughing because you just basically explained my entire college experience. Like I went to a PWI, joined a mostly white fraternity, and they put me in charge of making sure that people like got out of jail when they got arrested, that the house didn't burn down. So the amount of stuff that I heard them say to police on a weekly basis like blew my mind, to be like, y'all still here? Like how do you not get messed up overall? But I wanted to go back to your point about there being to Americas, and I think it's because obviously we haven't been conditioned that way, but the majority has been conditioned to think that everything has been fine on our aspect of things. I was having a conversation with my friend back on Thursday, and when you think about going from the 80s until now, you had the crack epidemic, at the prison industrial complex, then you had the war on terror, and then you go into President Obama, and on a mass level, we haven't really been as loud as everybody is right now for a long time. So for people to say, well, where has this been? This has been coming out of nowhere. It's been there. We just had to suppress it because we weren't in control of as much media as what we are today to be able to have those voices be heard, to be able to share all these videos. If you go back to 2003, 2004, nobody was able to share videos the way in which we are right now, right? Nobody was able to see all the things in which we're able to see and be able to show you in real time what's really going on outside. I think that also played a huge role into it as well, to say we've always lived in this. It's just that you have the ability to be able to turn it off, whereas we've had to go through it and mostly talk about it amongst ourselves.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think back when you mentioned, you were in charge of basically getting people out of trouble. I remember back in 2001 when the Maryland Terrapins won the NCAA championship in basketball. I think it was 2001. And I was up at University of Maryland partying because they won the championship. But I remember all those white kids, white males specifically, like they had bonfires going, they were trashing cars, and all the cops were on horses just standing around watching. And I was thought to myself, even back then, if this was at Howard or Grambling or any place that was predominantly black, they would have shut that shit down so quick. But they were literally standing there on their horses, just letting them terrorize College Park. And I'm like, how does anybody not see that there's a difference in how they get to behave versus how we do? And I feel like when tragedies like what happened to George Floyd, his murder, the media seems to have a hard time calling a thing, right? Like I see headlines like, they use racial undertones or something was racially motivated. Why not just say it was racist? Because it clearly was racist, right? Like, why is it so hard for media companies to just call it what it is? Are they really afraid that they're going to offend their white constituents or their white consumer base? But Renee, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. It goes back to what Nia was saying about accountability, is we allow people, like, I get it. We live in a country where you're supposed to have an opinion and you're supposed to be allowed to think what you want and post what you want and say what you want. Yet we need to know that some of these thoughts are what's actually leading to people getting killed. So by us tiptoeing around the issue here and not calling a spade for a spade and calling racism for what it really is, you're perpetuating it. You're allowing it to continue. You're allowing these mindsets to be looked at as okay, when in reality, it should be being racist is a crime. It's wrong. If you are discriminating against someone because of their race, their gender, who they choose to love, whatever discrimination category you're falling into, it is wrong. And when it leads to violence, like we're seeing in the death of George Floyd, that is where we have to call it out for what it is. This man sat with his knee on another man's back, on his neck, keeping him from breathing for 9 minutes as he stared off. New people were recording him. New people are standing watching. You don't even care that there's people watching you kill this man. You never once stopped to check his pulse. You never once stopped to check to make he's okay. In fact, you stared off with this angry, and it looked racist to me, if I'm going to be honest. It looked racist to me in the way he was standing and very vindictive. Like he knew what he's doing. And this is a need to the Black community. This is me sending a message that I don't care that I'm a police officer that's supposed to serve and protect. I'm gonna, because I don't like this man for whatever reason, and we find out later they knew each other and they actually had some sort, they have a past as working together. I'm taking this personal, and there's just no excuse for it. So to see the way that things are tiptoed around, and I think it goes back to even what Nia was saying about the protest around COVID-19. We watch people protest reopening our country around a pandemic with guns. Why are you protesting a pandemic with guns, looking like you're going to war, in the faces of police officers, and nothing gets done? You mean to tell me they don't look like a threat to you? Meanwhile, I'm watching people that are protesting with signs, all different ages. They're marching, they're chanting, they're kneeling, and you're throwing tear gas at them. You're shooting them with rubber bullets. Reporters just trying to do their job, and you're shooting them with rubber bullets. They're a threat to you because they're standing with their back to you with a microphone. Yet someone in your face with a gun is not a threat. Oh, because of the color of their skin and because of what they're protesting. Because now white people are seeing what it's like to be black a little bit. When you're protesting Black Lives Matter, you now get lumped with us. So the headlines have to change. I know the Philadelphia Inquirer did an awful job of posting a headline. Buildings matter too. It was something along those lines because people are looting and rioting and destroying buildings. I am not saying it is right to do that. I'm seeing people walk out of stores with hands full of bags like they just went shopping. That is not right. That's wrong. It's also not all Black Lives Matter. But also at the end of the day, I'm fighting for life. We're fighting for the life and death of Black people. So I'm sorry when I say to hell with a building. I'd rather be alive. I'd rather not watch. I don't know about you guys. I have a brother. I fear, and I have sisters, and I have a father and a mother. I fear for their lives when they're out driving and you don't hear from them for a while. If I'm passing a cop car that's pulled someone over, I always slow down and make sure I don't know that person. That's not a relative. If a cop is near me, I'm panicking. I get scared of police. I've done nothing wrong. I've never committed a crime in my life. I'm educated. I meet all these boxes, but at the end of the day, they're going to look at me as a threat because I'm a Black woman. And it's terrifying. And that's where the headlines, even the NFL with Roger Goodell's statement they put out, you got to just get right to the point. We're talking life or death here. This is not politics in the sense of tiptoeing around if you're a Democrat or Republican. I get that. This is life or death. People are dying because of this. So it's time to call out racism and sexism and anything else when you see it and not be afraid about it. And honestly, I've called people out. Some responded well. We had a conversation around it. Some responded awful. I blocked them. You go over there. I'm not following you. Keep your opinions over there. I'm going to stay over here with my opinions. But we got to be willing to call people out and hold them accountable if any change is going to happen, including your friends, family, that buddy of yours that's racist. Call them out on it. Don't let them continue because essentially you're a bystander to a bully at the end of the day. It's time to call them out. So the headlines got to stop.
No, they have to stop. And you hit it on the head again. I mean, we're protesting for equality, right? It's life or death for us. 2.5 months, these fools couldn't go without a couple months without a haircut, and they want to show up to state capitol buildings with ARs. That is crazy to me, right? Like, it's also crazy to me that they were protesting a pandemic, right?
With guns, but
half y'all don't got health care anyway. White people too, right? Like, your health care is not that great either, right? And so you're out there protesting this thing, reopen the country. Why are you rushing to get back when all you're going to do, you could potentially get sick or a relative could get sick or anything can happen? These companies are going to go on without you. It boggles my mind. Mm-hmm. But Nia, what do you think also? These headlines, why not just call it what it is?
So, and I think it's funny. We're talking about, of course, like the media and stuff like that and their choices of how they present the news, and they try and have this narrative as if, oh, the looters, Black Lives Matter, because now, see, the narrative has changed, guys. 4 years ago when Colin Kaepernick took that knee, it was a disrespect to the American flag.
There we go.
Now everything is coming to light. Black Lives Matter was looked at as a terrorist group.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Now, I've always been for Black Lives Matter. Got a t-shirt, everything. When everything first happened, when the movement first came out, I was there. But of course, me thinking, well, I'm an athlete. This was the time I was in college. I'm thinking about what I want to do in my career. So I'm like, okay, let me step back. And it's sad that I even have to do that because I'm a Black woman. I shouldn't even have to want to do that, And so they want to put this narrative, or just people, period, to kind of put them at this comfortable state to think like, oh, it's just the Black people just acting erratic. I don't know why they're upset. He should have just complied. You know how they like to do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we watched this man for 9 minutes with his hands in his pocket. He was taunting everybody around because he knew he could do it. So it's like, why not just state it and just be real? Just be honest and say, this was racially motivated. This is the reason why everything is happening right now is because of systematic racism, oppression, what we've dealt with for 400 plus years. Just say it already. Stop tiptoeing around it. But you know what? Nobody wants to have that hard conversation. And until we, as people, as this nation, as white people, Black people, Asians, Hispanics, until everyone is ready to have that real conversation and speak the facts, because again, you must educate yourselves. There's plenty of resources to go and do that. Don't call me and ask me what I need to read, what I need to watch. Netflix is doing a great job. All these documentaries, all of these books, all of these movies, Google, social media, you can't miss it. There's no reason for you to be this ignorant anymore. So why are we tiptoeing around it every headline I see? Why not just state it? So until we get out of beating around the bush and everybody want to have this comfortable mindset and not just stating the fact that there are some very racist and ugly people in this world, they're going to keep tiptoeing around it. And we're going to keep stating facts, and we're going to keep holding them accountable, and we're going to make sure they make those changes, because now enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
You know what? I think it might have been within a year, you know, when Kaepernick signed with Nike and Nike started running those campaigns to support him, right? And there was a lot of white folks that were upset, but Nike stock went up. No one stopped buying Jordans. No one stopped buying Nikes, right? Like nothing happened to the company. And so, Mel, when we look at newspapers, newsrooms, you know, the media in general, if they say Donald Trump is racist, are they really afraid people are going to turn the channel to another network? I mean, is that really what they're afraid of? Like, what's the deal?
I mean, it's kind of laughable that people think that, oh man, they said Donald Trump is racist, I'm gonna just turn the TV off. People are gonna watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. But because you're calling out something that's truthful, that means that more people will pay attention to what's going on and to what you're saying. Like D.L. Hughley made a great joke yesterday on CNN when he said, you know it's bad when Michael Jordan even come out and saying stuff at this point in time.
A couple of times.
Right.
And that $100 million.
Exactly. I'm like, Michael Jordan is donating money to the movement.
Right.
That's how bad you know it is right now. So the fact that people are still saying, hey, this isn't true, this is accurate, this isn't a real depiction of what's going on outside, is just asinine and laughable. To Renee and Nia's points, you have so many platforms to be able to go out here and research, to go out here and say, I can educate myself, to watch on Netflix, to watch on Hulu, to watch on Amazon Prime. If you're still at this point and you're asking your very fine Black friend, hey, what can I do to be able to educate myself on what's going on, then that really shows what you're about at this point in time. So I don't know what these people out here doing, man. They just being goofy, in my opinion. They need to get it together.
I mean, you mentioned Jordan, right? I mean, when I saw that 100 mil, I was like, okay, 100 million over 10 years. I've never seen Jordan do that. I've never seen really any celebrity.
10-year contract with Black people, man. He's literally right now, man.
And it's so much money, and it seems like he's starting to use his platform, one that he shied away from using on racial topics and politics and things like that. He's finally starting to use it. But so many celebrities have spoken out against racism. One thing that does bother me, though, is in many of their statements, they're trying to make white people feel okay also. And that pisses me off. Like they always started with not all white people or, and I'm like, well, if you're not a racist white person, well, you know, this statement's not directed towards you, right? Like, why do we need to make them feel comfortable when we haven't felt comfortable in 500 years? Like, I mean, go ahead, Renee.
No, that is literally it. Like when someone makes a comment about, I don't know, like let's say black on black crime. Now I am offended by that, of course, but I'm not taking it personal. I've never committed a crime.
Right.
You know, I didn't, you know, I'm not living that lifestyle. So what I know, ironically, I had a white person I was talking to, a friend that was like, we started talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. And he was like, I'm so sorry to bring this up. Like, this is such an uncomfortable topic. I know this is uncomfortable. I'm like, look, being judged, stereotyped, racially profiled, fearing for my life, that is uncomfortable. Like talking about it is actually the easiest part of it, because I could tell you stories for days about all the racism and sexism I've dealt with as a soccer player, all the racism I've dealt with as a woman in sports, and just being Black in America, all the stuff that I've dealt with. I'm like, there's enough in this world that is uncomfortable to live with. So to talk about it is the easy part, and at the end of the day, it's like what I always go back to is whenever you expect change to happen, it doesn't happen in the comforts of your zip code. It doesn't happen when you are comfortable. It doesn't happen when things are easy and convenient. Change happens because you're uncomfortable and it's time to move. Change happens because in this case, people are dying. And I know for me, my thought is, yes, I'm a journalist, but I was Black way before I was a journalist. So I owe it to myself, and I owe it to my family and my 2-year-old nephew and my future kids that I will hopefully, God willing, have one day, to make sure that I am defending them first. And if a job doesn't want to hire me because of that, your loss. I don't want to work for you anyways. So at the end of the day, these stations that are so busy focused on protecting their audience, you want to keep a racist audience? Is that the type of company you want to be? Because I don't want to be affiliated with anybody. If you are saying that my defending the Black Lives Matter movement makes me someone you don't want to hire, trust and believe I don't want to work with you anyways. So at the end of the day, we got to stop tiptoeing around it. We're not talking about what side of the poll you vote for in politics. We're talking life or death. This is a situation that's very uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure it was very uncomfortable for George Floyd's family to have to bury him, for his daughter to know her father's not coming home, for Ahmaud Arbery's family to watch him get gunned down as he went out for a jog, something he's done every day, Breonna Taylor to be sitting in her home and get gunned down. Like, it's more uncomfortable to have to deal with that than to have to talk about it. So that in itself is an act. Let's cut it. I don't want to hear you're especially adults. You're not a child. Let's grow up. How about the fact that one of my friends had to have the conversation with her 2 kids about how racism exists in his world and how you have to be mindful of the things you're saying, the things you're doing. That's uncomfortable. Not talking about it as adults. So let's get to the point where we don't have to tell, as Black people, we don't have to tell our kids, oh, you know what? This is why little Johnny got that opportunity and you didn't. And let me tell you about what it's like to be Black in America. I'd like to not have to have that conversation with my future children. So let's cut the act, get over it. It's uncomfortable being racially profiled and dealing with racism. So if you're not Black, please, welcome to our world. It is uncomfortable in America.
Look, she's on fire. And the funny thing is, she led right into my next set of questions. I'm like, did you do my notes or something? I mean, no.
What can I say? Mic drop.
We are Black before we're anything else, right? Like when people say they don't see color, that's bullshit. Like that is just bullshit, right? And I mean, there was a study, because I'm a sociology major. There's a study that found that you see color before you see sex. I mean, like. So you certainly notice what someone looks like, and it's important for us to use our platforms to do what we're doing right now, right? Share our experiences and hopefully impact change. I was doing some research on who actually is writing these headlines, who's actually publishing all this stuff. So 77% of reporters, editors, photographers, videographers in newspaper and the internet publishing.
So my notes.
Dog, 77% are white. 77%.
Oh, really?
Reporters, editors, photographers, videographers, newspaper in the internet. Like, that is crazy, right? Like, if 77% of the people that do all this reporting are white, they're never going to see things from our perspective, and they're going to keep framing it in a way that's comfortable to the people that they represent. The 4 of us have 50,364 followers across social media. Okay. Let me repeat that. The 4 of us have 50,364 followers across social media. That's huge. I mean, we have a responsibility. And Renee, you kind of went into this, but do you guys ever feel that you're going to negatively impact your career by speaking your truth, speaking our truth? Nia, please.
So with me being as young as I am and kind of really getting into the game, at one point, if you was to tell me this last year, I'm protecting my brand. But this really kind of made me think differently. At the end of the day, regardless if I'm Nia on air, Nia Simone, Nia Sapp, whoever, I'm Nia Sapp, the Black woman. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it's the branding and everything, it's out the window.
Fact.
Now it's just about me as a human and believing in my human rights and believing that I should be treated just like every single body in this world. no matter my skin tone, no matter my complexion or where I come from, how tall I am, what I did in my life, none of that. All of that stuff is out the window. Now it's just about me being a Black woman and standing up for what's right. And everything that I've seen at 23 years old, I don't even want my kids. Like, I can only imagine what my mom grew up seeing, or my grandma, or my great grandma. I know their pain is just this, it's tough. So if I get an email today from anybody that I'm doing freelance work, part-time work, whatever, if I was to apply for a job today and they deny me because of my social media and what I'm standing for, I'm one of those people that's out there protesting. Yes, I am. And I'm proud to do it because you know what? My ancestors did it. And I owe that to them. So me being silent, or anybody that's being silent that's Black and is not outraged by how we've been treated for so long, if you don't want to hire me, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Now it's made me realize that we as Black people, number one, we need to have our own platforms, and that's what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. And everyone is doing well in their own ways. You know, we're going to keep supporting each other. We're going to keep retweeting each other. We're going to keep dialoguing with each other. We're going to keep recommending each other. That's what we have to do now. Mm-hmm. And so now it's made me think outside the box. I don't even want to work for a big time company anymore. I used to dream about that. I used to dream about that. But you know what? And I interned at one of our local news stations here back in the fall. And I just remember every day I'm coming in. Of course, there's not too many Black people in the newsroom. And I put in perspective for myself, I don't want to do local news sports reporting because, number one, I am a dark-skinned woman, and I'm proud to be a dark-skinned woman. And so we, as Black women, already get teared down, but the color of our skins, oh, you're not light enough. I've dealt with colorism. And so dealing with it in the newsroom, it's real. Me worrying about, oh, I have to wear this wig. I hate wigs. I no longer want to wear wigs anymore. But it's sad that I even have to do that. Yeah, it's the struggle. It's sad that I even have to do that because, again, I want to be true to myself. And this should show all of us that we are valued. We are very creative. Without a lot of these networks wouldn't even be where they're at without us.
Yep.
So if you don't want to hire me because I'm standing up for Black Lives Matter and I'm standing up for what's right, and I'm standing up for my culture and my race and who I am as a woman, because at the end of the day, when I write down what's your race? I'm Black. I'm an African-American woman. So if you don't accept that, oh, well, guess what? I'm still going to be creative. I'm still going to put out great content. I'm going to talk about what I love, and that's sports. Mm-hmm. And if you can't take me for who I am, so be it.
You're lost. Facts.
It was one of my goals, just like yours, to get in corporate America. And I had two specific goals when I got into banking: get the 6 figures and get my VP title. Mm-hmm. And I got there. And then my company, Capital One, restructured, and I was out the door. And at that point, I started feeling like, yeah, I'm tired of working for these big companies. Because when they need you, they need you. But when they don't need you no more, they will move on at the speed of light. And so it's important for us to create our own platforms. What's also important is we don't get a lot of second chances. We might not get a second chance at all, right? Like, we're not like them where they have an uncle or a father or a grandfather or their mother's uncle or somebody can get them in and constantly get them in the door. Like, one shot, and sometimes that's all you get. And so, Mel, I'm curious, if you tweet something or you do a YouTube video or you like something, you ever worried that, someone won't do business with you or you may not get a job because of that?
Man, what's funny is that was kind of like my entire experience in New York until like maybe the past year or so. Like, my parents didn't want to add me on social media at all because they're like, you got your own life, we got our lives, we don't need to cross at any point. And I'm like, cool. Then they started following me, and every time I would tweet something that to them would be a little bit reckless, they say, hey, this job might be doing this or this job might be doing that, or you don't want them to see this. And it gets to a certain point where, similar to what Nia was just saying, before anything else, I'm Black. So if you don't even care that much about what's going on in me, you don't really care about me in any way, shape, or form. If you care more so about my brand and what YouTube videos I'm putting up or what my tweets look like, and not really looking at the message of, man, Melvin must really be going through something. Let me research and see what's actually happening. then I don't need you to follow me. I don't need you to be a part of my journey. I'll go on and figure out another way. So I understand. And obviously we all have been at that point where we're like, do I want to do this to protect my brand and where I want to go? Or do I want to go down this path and say, you know what, it is what it is and this is who I am. And I'm so thankful that this revolution is going on right now, because maybe it'll come a point in time where people don't have to have that conversation anymore. People won't have to have that thought. Like I used to do the same thing with my little brother, who's a Division I athlete right now, where he would tweet stuff and say stuff. And in the past, I'm like, hey, think about what you put out there. But now, because the floodgates have opened, people can say what they want to say about what their experiences are, because people understand how valid they are and that they are truthful and that these are things that are going on. So let the floodgates open, man. If you got something to say, go ahead and put it out there. And for all these businesses that are putting out these black squares or saying we still Black Lives Matter, what's your executive boards look like? Who are your managers?
Oh man,
who's doing the hiring? If y'all really want to go, I'm taking emails right now to be like, okay, cool. July 5th, who am I emailing? Okay, Stacy, good. Let me see your executive board. All right, Ben and Jerry's, I see what y'all tweeting. Who are your executive board? Let me see all of it. There you go. We watching.
I feel the exact same way, man. Like I said, I'm in banking, and Bank of America, they tweeted, I think that they're giving $1 billion to fight racial inequality, right? And I was thinking, should I respond to this? Because I know a few things about Bank of America, right? And so I responded to them, and I was like, and I did the whole "this you" thing when they were fined $432 million for discriminating to black people, not lending to black people. They had the same credit, same income as their white counterparts. They bought Countrywide Mortgage, who was doing predatory lending in Prince George's County, the wealthiest black county in the country. Like, so I tweeted all those things, like all these fines that they had. So you want to, now that, you know, everybody's doing these black squares and saying, well, we care about black people, blah, 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 blah. You want to say, well, we're right behind you. We're going to donate $1 billion. Do you know how much Bank of America is worth? $1 billion to them is like us giving $100. Like, like that's not enough change. Not to mention it's a tax write-off and a number of other issues that I have with that whole system. But let me ask you this, because Renee, you talked about Drew Brees. Can y'all tell me why every time we want to have a conversation about race, like somehow they reduce our protest to the flag or to the national anthem or to the military? Like, why is it always reduced to a piece of cloth?
But first of all, I want to comment on your other point really quickly, because it is, I want people to realize this is not an opportunity to just be a part of something for like it's a, this is life or death. Okay. This is not, let me be a part of this because everyone's doing it and I want to join the fun and I want to share squared too. This is life or death. So for these businesses, I've seen a lot of companies, networks, people that are posting these like really fluffy, we stand with you. Do you really stand with us? Are you hiring diversity? Are you actively what are you doing the rest of the year? Okay, right now in June, we're dealing with Black Lives Matter. What are you doing when no one's paying attention to you?
Right.
And no one's checking? Because I've actually gone through and looked at what people's statements are. What happens when we're not having this conversation? How are you carrying this throughout the rest of the year? You're not. So don't now want to jump on the bandwagon because the rest of the world is posting Black Lives Matter and black squares and statements that you're going to do it. And then going back to your other point, I think it's really ignorant the way that people always throw the flag in our face. I do not have the same feeling for the American flag that white people do. Please remember,
me neither.
I was not brought into this country by choice. This is not the land of the home, the land of the brave, home of the free, all this other stuff. Really, because it took us centuries to get free. So when you talk about the history of our country and all the great things our ancestors fought for, our country is literally built off of murder, rape, kidnapping, slavery, and on the backs of minorities like us. So don't act like our country was founded as a place like a melting pot for everyone to have a free opportunity. No. It was for white people to have their plantations and have their companies and their businesses that now put them way ahead of us that we're still playing catch up. And so the ignorance of throwing the American flag in our face and using that to hide behind that we're kneeling and disrespecting the flag and kneeling and disrespecting our military, that's not what we're doing. Keep in mind, some of our ancestors fought in those same wars. And that's what I love about people's response to Drew Brees. Our grandfathers were fighting in the war, and great-grands were fighting in that same war to come back to a country where they could not even have any freedom to do anything.
They couldn't use that. Couldn't use that GI Bill.
Couldn't even use
that GI
it.
Bill.
We're fighting for something that literally did not even apply to us. We were fighting selflessly for you. And that is to a fault. Black people were very forgiving. We're very understanding and loving, despite all the whips, lynching, chains, chopping off our feet, branding our eyes so we couldn't read and write, and chopping off everything that we've dealt with as a society over the centuries. We still forgive white people, and they still continue to throw the flag in our face. So I love all my white friends that are my best friends. Like, drop the whole best Black friend thing too. Because at the end of the day, we live in two different Americas, and what the flag stands for means something completely different for me than it does for our white counterparts. So it's ignorant, because as we're talking about, you clearly don't know the history of our country. Our country was not a place for people to come and live this like fluffy, fun life and be able to be whoever they want to be. No. Our country was selfish, violent people that took over land, stole it from other people. Let's not forget the Native Americans that were here before white people came, and then proceeded to bring Black people over like we were cattle and use us to build up their plantations. So the whole flag crap's got to go. I respect the military. I've got uncles. I've got relatives that are in the military. I've got relatives that are cops and in law enforcement. But at the end of the day, we all should be given the same freedoms, peace, justice, and all that like everybody else. The flag thing's got to go. I'm over it.
They love to say, why protest, why riot? Those things don't impact change, right? But then they also love to talk about the American Revolution and celebrate the Independence Day, right? And so while they want to celebrate those things because they felt that the white colonizers were oppressed, right? At the same exact time, they stole land from the Native Americans and then took our African ancestors and put them into bondage. Like, it's so crazy to me. Nia, what's going on with this flag thing? I mean, you athlete, right? I mean, please go ahead.
I mean, as I said before, agreeing with pulling off what Ernie Johnson has said about Drew Brees' comments, using it as a blindfold. It's like, I don't know if they have an issue of thinking of all the bad things their ancestors have done to us and others. And again, until you're ready to have that tough conversation and accountability, and I think it's like a brainwash. I just never understood it. It's sad that, again, they're so closed-minded to even think that we live the same life, because we'll never live the same life. We'll never have the same struggles. And to go off of his comments, I thought it was disrespectful, because my grandfather fought in all types. He was a part of the army, and so you got to think about, your grandfather may have, but mine did too. And so did my great-grandfather. And so did my uncles. And so did maybe my long-distance cousins did too, that were Black. So it's a slap in the face to fight for a country that doesn't even value you. They value your body. They use you. If you die, I mean, hey, but again, ignorance. Nobody wants to have that real conversation. And nobody wants to take accountability for what has been done to Black people. Because if you educate yourself, you go look at those documentaries, go look at the 13th, speaking well on the 13th Amendment. You see the history from as the Black stereotypes, how they have pushed this narrative of Black people to be rapists and to be thieves and to be murderers and all this other stuff, when y'all did the same exact thing to get this country. You brought over
it.
And
oh yeah.
So I'm confused as to how Black people are painted as the world's worst creation. I just don't get it. It's honestly, it's so offending. Oh my God. I mean, of course, Drew Brees wasn't the first person to drop that line, but it's so stupid. And it's just like, at this point, again, y'all are tiptoeing and y'all are beating around the bush from the real issue. And that's the fact that it's systematic racism. And really all of this started because the color of our skins.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
Or they use this. Well, go back to your country. Well, I wish I could. I would love to, but guess what? I don't even know. I don't even know where my ancestors are from, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you all have destroyed our history. Thankfully, we have history now, that we can look back on and stuff like that. But there's so many other things that we'll never know because it's been destroyed. I don't know where my ancestors are from. I don't know if I can say I can go back to this part of Africa or that part of Africa. Granted, I probably won't even be accepted there because I'm from America. Gosh.
People seem shocked when Breeze made it about the flag, and I had this conversation with a friend. I was just like, so no one saw those pictures he took with Donald Trump not too long ago, posing with Trump in the skybox.
Hello.
I mean, that should have let everybody know what side of the tracks he believed in, right? And it's funny because within 48 hours, social media pressured him into releasing a PR statement against Donald Trump, right? And that's fine and dandy. But what are you saying behind the scenes to these people who don't agree with what Black people are fighting for, right? Mm-hmm. What's really interesting to me is they reduce it to the flag and the national anthem and the military. But how come 11% of our homeless population are veterans? Like, if you care so damn much about the military,
supporting our veterans,
right? 11% of the homeless population are veterans. So don't say to me you care all about the military, the anthem, and all this nonsense. You don't care. You only care that Black people are making the flag look bad. At least that's what you think we're doing. And things might be a little bit better had you paid attention to Colin Kaepernick's peaceful protest. But that was too far left for you. You didn't like that, right? So, I mean, Mel, what do you make of this whole the flag conversation and how it always seems to get dropped in the middle of us talking about racism?
Man, I always think whenever somebody wants to have a flag conversation, my immediate point is, okay, the first stanza of the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you know the rest of what's going on? Do you know the rest of these national anthems? Do you know the rest of the song? That's out there for people to be able to research. You only want to have it surface level so that it fits your viewpoint, so that it fits your perspective. But when you actually go into what it really represents, that's when it's going to start to get uncomfortable for you. On the Drew Brees point of things, I don't understand how you could be in New Orleans during Katrina all the way up till now and still have this same perspective.
Right.
You literally have teammates who are fighting on the front lines of this, and you're still, like you said before, taking pictures with Donald Trump in the skybox. Like, I'm sure that they had a quick Zoom call to say, hey, man, if you don't get this together, we ain't blocking for you at all this year. You might have had to retire.
Still might not.
Over the offseason.
Yeah.
Still might not. Honestly, as soon as I saw that video came out, I saw LeBron quote retweeted it. I said, oh, floodgates just opened on Drew Brees. It's a wrap for him at this point in time. It's really nonsensical that people just want to couch things to make themselves uncomfortable when so many other people for so long have had to live uncomfortable lives. And as soon as you feel just a smidge bit uncomfortable, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. So for Drew Brees and anybody else that just wants to make it about the flag and drape themselves in it, again, go back to all the veterans who come back here and that are homeless. Go back to all the veterans that have come back here trying to get a job and couldn't. Go back to all the veterans that we have that are within our families that had to go and get alternative jobs to what it is that they wanted to do. My grandfather had to come back and he drove a truck for 30 to 40 years. Now, while he enjoyed it, that wasn't the first thing that he wanted to do, but that's all that he could do. And that's what his experience was when he came back. Let's talk about all of it if y'all really want to go there.
And we see the NFL, we see all these major corporations, they do the whole black and white flag with the blue line because they love police and all this stuff, right? And we talked about how police treat Black people. Let me read this stat to you guys. In 2019, 24% of all police killings were of Black Americans. 24% of all police killings were of Black Americans. We only make up 13% of the population, right?
Thank you.
Only 13% of the population. Then here's the kicker. 99% of all police killings had no charges pressed against them. 99% of police killings had no charges pressed against them. They operate with impunity. Yeah. That's why when George Floyd was on the ground begging for his life, that officer didn't care. That's why those other officers stood around. One of those officers, only took one to come and get that other officer off and say, wait a minute, you went too far. None of them do that. They operate with impunity. And I don't go ahead, Mel.
I just wanted to say real quick, and even I've seen some people on social media as of late start to have the conversation of, okay, the other officers that were there were very young, or like new to the job, as in they just started in a couple of days. Even if you're new into a job, I know the difference between, hey, this is right and this is wrong. I know the difference between, I may be 4 days on this job, but we're literally killing this man on the street. I don't care what level you are in your career. You should know the difference between that. I just wanted to jump in.
Hold on.
Yeah, and it's keeping your job more important than saving this man's life. Like that's what it comes down to. I would rather lose my job. I would not be able to sleep at night knowing that I stood by and watched Derek Chauvin kill George Floyd. And I'd rather lose my job than be a part of that. And that's the problem. We have people that are too busy protecting their careers. Yes, I understand you need to put food on the table, but you also, at the end of the day, have to answer to a God a judge that's way more powerful than any courtroom. So you might get by the 12 jury members and that judge, but who's judging you at the end of your life? And that's what I stand for. So if I'm homeless, if I'm jobless, I would rather die with integrity than live a coward that can't speak up for what's right and what's wrong.
Whether or not those other officers were young, I don't know. Here's one thing I do know. Why is it that every other job in law enforcement requires you to have an advanced degree? Attorneys, judges, but cops, GED, you get to carry a gun, right? Like, and look, I don't have a college degree. I haven't finished college, but you're walking around with a gun. You have the ability within your hands to be judge, juror, and executioner. Yet that's the one position in law enforcement that doesn't require you to have any advanced training, any real skill set, any degree, anything.
No damn sense.
I mean, if a doctor kills somebody, he's sued for malpractice, he loses his license. I mean, cops, though, 99% haven't had charges filed against them unless social media gets involved and then pressures the DA to do something. And even in that case, a lot of times they put weaker charges. And so it's mind-boggling to me. Does anyone ever message you guys and say, just stick to sports, stop talking about race?
They know better than to message that to me, especially on my.
I'm waiting on that day. I'm waiting on it.
In a heartbeat. Look,
I'm waiting on it.
Please message me.
Please.
You know to say? I will come right back at you.
Oh my gosh, I'm waiting on that. I mean, of course, I've seen it. I've seen my fellow journalists, black journalists, say, "Oh yeah, stick to sports." Or you see, some of those trolls who cowards. I'm sorry, that hide behind fake accounts and want to troll people. And tell these athletes, they tell LeBron that all the time, stick to sports.
Oh, yeah. They didn't tell Drew Brees that.
No, they did not. They sure did not.
In fact, they defended him and said he's voicing his opinion. We're talking life or death here. Again, we're going back to life or death at the end of the day.
But LeBron is always labeled, oh, he's a racist. He's a racist. Right. He's trying to stir up tension. It's not even like that. It is like that.
Tension been there forever.
Man.
Do you guys feel obligated to help your white friends and colleagues understand systematic racism? Like if they ask you, what can I do? I know we kind of touched on this, but if they come to you, I mean, is it your responsibility? Is it our responsibility to help them understand if they're genuinely trying to figure out what they can do? Should we be helping?
Look, my thing is, anyone that is unaware, has no knowledge, and is ignorant, it started at home. Your parents clearly did not have that conversation with you, and I'm not your mom. So I'm not going to sit up and teach you about racism in the world when you clearly have gone this far as an adult, especially as a kid, okay, maybe. But as an adult, that means you have never exposed yourself to Black people and minorities. You've never been that means you're around the same types of people. You've been around the same race, because at some point, even if it's not stemming from your parents or your grandparents or whoever, someone should have taught you the way of the world. And I have had people that are like, going back to Black on Black crime, it's such an ignorant statement to me to immediately want to say, well, why don't Black people just get a job? Why are they in a gang? Okay, here, let me backtrack for you. I went to a private school for high school. I had classmates who literally owned, which I didn't know you could own, islands, helicopters, trains, owned them. Their own of that. Meanwhile, I'm growing up, and I was fortunate to get into that private school. My parents couldn't afford it. They did what they had to do to help us get in financial aid. I'm coming from backgrounds where I'm seeing people that, if they're lucky, have one car to the household, two parents if they're lucky. It's usually a single parent household. There's so many layers to what's going on in the Black communities that it's not as simple as just go get a job. Okay, how do you get a job when you're a single mom? You can't put food on the table. You're working you have kids to take care of. You have the education that maybe as high as high school, and you're also behind the 8 ball to begin with, because you don't have a father that left you a trust fund, or a grandfather that left you all these things when they passed away. You're starting from the negatives, not even scratch, the negatives. So the ignorance of not being aware of what's going on in our Black communities. That's why I applaud LeBron James for creating a school and creating products that can be easily purchased by Black people. Let's not discourage and look past that as well. People like Jordan that have put out these brands that are impossible to afford. LeBron James and certain people are giving products to our communities that our communities can use. And that's what makes change happen, because we are so behind. I will never catch that person that owns a train or their own island. I will not be able to catch them in my lifetime. It doesn't matter how many jobs I have. We all know taxes and everything else. There's no way that person who graduated from high school, had a baby before they even graduated, is going to be able to get enough money from one job. Now they're working 2 jobs. Now they're trying to support their kids. They're single. There's just too many layers to it to just be ignorant to say, well, even the people that argue food stamps and welfare, how ignorant are you to not understand that there are people that need help? They need financial assistance. They're trying to play catch up. So the whole argument of, I don't even know where I started because I just went left. But at the end of the day, it's ignorant. It's very ignorant. It's not my job to teach you. You need to go find your own way to make an impact. And I know people have reached out like, what can I do? I'm like, go figure it out. I'm not holding your hand through this. I'm like, are you speaking up on what's right? Are you holding your friends accountable? Are you openly supporting Black Lives Matter? If you're not doing that, I can't help you because you don't really want to be helped. It's fake. So for people that are looking for what can I do? What should I say? Say something. How about you start with that? Stop hiding behind. You're quick to blast people when you don't agree with them and hide behind your computer. Don't hide behind your computer screens now. Speak up. Yeah. I don't know.
Can we also say that for everybody that brings up what about black on black crime? Can we talk about the system overall that inhibited that to be able to happen? Can we talk about the reason why it's even
redlining?
Nobody's killing each other just because they're Black.
Right.
People are killing each other because they don't have anything to eat. They don't have money. The environment in which they're in, the conditions that they have to survive and struggle through. Nobody's just, oh man, I'm Black, he's Black, somebody got to die today. That doesn't happen anywhere. You have to think about what type of environment we allow to fester for so long for people to get to this point.
You know what? And I'm glad that you brought up that point about the Black on Black crime. Okay, because in their mindset, they think, oh, well, Lil Day walking down the street, he's just gonna shoot anybody. And no, it doesn't work that way around here, because if Lil Day got beef with Joey across the street, he's gonna handle with Joey. He's not gonna go shoot up Joey, Yvette, Patrick, whoever else, because they don't want to have that conversation either as to why Dylan Roof decided to walk up in a church of innocent Black people and kill 9 people and walked out with a bulletproof vest and got Burger King.
Burger King, bro.
Have that conversation, no.
Murdered, got Burger King, got a bulletproof vest.
Oh,
$20 though. $20, and you're on the ground dead and can't. Okay.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, they want to play the mental. We got mental health. Think about all the Black people who are dealing with mental health issues right now because of how this country has put us. You see the projects. People grow up in the projects. Think about the projects. Think about everybody in the projects and how hard it is for them to come out because this system was not set up for us to succeed.
Yep.
Nope. And that
it makes sense.
It's so ignorant. It's so ignorant to sit up and say, Oh, well, why not? Why are the numbers so high in black on black crime? Why are black people killing each other? For survival. We're not, we are, if there's if someone's in a gang and you have beef with them, they're killing you. And just like you said, Nia, I was just having this conversation yesterday. It's not, oh, someone hurt my feelings, I'm going to go shoot up the nearest school. Or, oh, I'm not really happy today, I'm going to go bomb a church. No, we are intentionally attacking people for our own survival. You will see black, and I'm not excusing it. It needs, the numbers need to go down. Do not get me wrong. I am infuriated by the fact that we even as a society allow the world to look at us as animals because we kill each other. But here's what I always say to that. For the Me Too movement, they were addressing sexual assault. So are people not allowed to address and support the Me Too movement because there's sexual abuse that happens in people's households? So if you're telling me that we can dismiss police killing black people because black on black crime exists, are you also telling me that rape, we shouldn't argue rape, we shouldn't argue sexual assault because there's some dads that like to touch their kids? Is that what you're telling me? Because it happens in one household, we can't address it as a society? Because therefore we shouldn't be addressing anything, is what you're telling me. And that's ignorant to say. Because what happens in our own backyards and homes does not excuse and allow crimes to happen anywhere else. So it's time for people to get out of that ignorant, trifling mindset, because projects and ghettos formed. Why did projects and ghettos form?
Hey.
Let's look back at history. Why were black people gathering in one area and then white people fleeing out of that area, and we have everything drop and projects form? Let's take a look back at why it started. Why did the white flight happen?
You know, they are so quick to talk about black on black crime, but the truth is crime is generally about proximity. You're going to commit a crime against whoever lives closest to you. So if you live in black neighborhoods, you commit crime against black people. If you live in white neighborhoods, you commit crimes against white people. And before they point out what we should do to clean up our community, maybe if they did a better job taking care of home, there wouldn't be any Dylan roofs, right? I mean, to you guys' point, when people in our community get upset, sure, there's killings, there's robberies, there's all kinds of things. But we damn sure don't go bomb churches, shoot up schools.
When has a black person burned a church, bro? Right, like, when have we ever gone to a cemetery and written on graves? We don't do that. It was just on social media last night. Somebody went around and knocked over a bunch of graves and wrote Black Lives Matter on it. And there was this long thread. And every black person said, black folks don't play around no graveyards. Like, we're not going to be out there doing that kind of stuff. Right. And then they found it was two white guys. Like, of course, like, at least if you're going to make it look like we did it, make it look like a crime that we would actually do. We're not playing around with no supernatural stuff. That's not how we were raised. You respect the dead.
You don't see us with Ouija boards and stuff. That's not what we're doing. No.
Not at all. Shoot, I was scared to even walk on a grave.
No, I don't even. I still hold my breath when I drive by a cemetery.
Oh, I do too.
But look,
it's a shortcut. I don't care.
I saw someone write on there's a post that someone had wrote on a building like something about colored people. I'm like, what black person is going around calling each other colored?
We don't even call each other colored.
We don't call each other colored. Good try.
At all.
Try again. But that's the thing. Is like, we don't do like serial killers and serial rapists and school bombings and church bombings and all right. If you really want to talk about who's doing some of these big crimes, let's really look at the list. Now it's wrong for Lil Day Day to go shoot up Joey because Joey beat him up or something. That is wrong. And then there are a lot of deaths that happen that are innocent bystanders that happen to get caught in the crossfire. But let's not isolate black on black crime and ignore all the other crimes going on in our world. That's why it pisses me off when people want to bring up all these stats. I couldn't believe someone was actually addressing, abortion and black on black crime. And I'm like, okay, we obviously live in a world that's very violent with a lot of crime. We can't protest all that right now. We don't even have enough energy to protest Black Lives Matter. We're not going to turn this into a Black Lives Matter meets Me Too meets abortion, pro-life meets all this, and now we're protesting everything. We're human. We got to take it one step at a time. Rome was not built overnight, and neither is going to be equality and justice. It's going to take time, and we have to slowly celebrate these small victories. But to attack black on black crime is in itself racist.
Let me ask y'all this. So we're talking a lot about how white folks view us and view our cause, but what about the black folks who don't help our cause? Kanye West, to me, is a great example, right? So he just donated $2 million to George Floyd's family. And I know his family can certainly use that money. But that doesn't excuse Kanye's comments, the posing with Trump, the whole slavery was a choice stuff that he did. Yeah. Like his comments make it so much harder for us to fight for equality. But what about people like why do people even look to entertainers to speak eloquently about race in this country?
Honestly, because we put so many of them on such a pedestal. Like we already value what they have to say so much because of their societal status and because, they can reach so many more people. So what they have to say is more valuable. When, as we're seeing right now, that's not the case. A lot of them are saying the complete opposite of what we're saying. And we're like, all right, cool. We know exactly who to not support once all this is over with. We know exactly whose music we're not going to play when all this is over with. We appreciate what you're saying now so that we know how to move forward, moving on past all of this. But I'll let y'all go ahead.
Before Nia goes, because I know she got some words, I'm just going to say, on behalf of Kanye, I do not know him personally. I was not in their household when these decisions were being made, but I can guarantee you this is one of the benefits we have of a Kardashian having babies with a black man, because Kim Kardashian is the reason why Kanye West donated that money, because Kim Kardashian has black children. So we are finally benefiting from the fact that people love to date our men and not really our women. It's our men and love to date our men. And now that they have mixed babies and their kids are now viewed by society, regardless if you are black, they now understand it. It's now a little more scary when you got Northwest and Little Chicago and all them walk around as black kids. So it took us having mixed kids for Kanye to speak up, because I guarantee you, if this is before they have kids and before Kim and before Kimye, Kanye is silent. So it is, but I do actually think celebrities need to speak up, to be honest, because if I tweet something, it might reach if it goes viral, maybe it'll reach 1,000 people. But if LeBron James or Kanye or Drew Brees, if they tweet something, it's reaching thousands, millions of people. So that is where I do hold them to a high standard. If you're an athlete or an artist, people are supporting you. They buy your tickets to your events. They buy your jersey. They're rooting for you. They're watching you on TV. You owe it to society to now speak up. And you have people that are following you. So honestly, it is part of the job. You need to speak up. But go ahead, Nia. I know you got some words.
I know, as Mel and Renee said, we do look to people with bigger platforms to be the voice for those who cannot maybe speak as loudly as you can. And so I think I've actually been very disappointed by some of the black artists and black actors and actresses, how the way they are handling this situation. And I think that, people get to a certain level in their life and they feel as though, well, I'm this person. I mean, I'm not going to throw no celebrity out there, but, they think, oh, well, I'm on TV. I have this hit single and I've done this and I've done that. It doesn't pertain to me. And so that's where the ignorance comes from. For instance, Trina. I mean, come on.
Oh my
completely
God.
That's just straight stupidity. Now you're calling your own people animals.
That's just,
Yeah. And so I love to, it's like, honestly, it's a bad thing. We do need more of our people speaking out with bigger platforms. Again, I've been kind of very disappointed to see how some people are handling it. But also it's giving us a sense as Black people, who may be on a smaller platform, to see that, okay, I'm not listening to your music anymore, because the cancel culture, it's powerful.
Very.
Very powerful. Look at these D-list celebrities. Look how quickly they got themselves canceled.
2 versions.
Yeah. So we live in a different world right now where it's just like, you don't speak out for what's right, or you don't say what's right, there will be consequences. And now we see how you are. So it's Black people, we can't say, well, Trina did say this, but there is no but. What Trina said was ignorant. What Trina said was wrong.
Join R. Kelly.
There you go. Because you canceled just like him. You know what I'm saying? Or what's his name? Shamik Moore. Very disappointed. Rosa Parks should have took a cab.
A cab, bro?
A cab. So let's let's think about it, guys. Do we really want some of these people with big black platforms speaking out?
That's the question. Like, I think they have a responsibility, but if you're not going to be educated as a black person speaking, then you need to keep your mouth shut.
Just be quiet, because they don't even
have something nice to say. Say nothing at all.
Say nothing.
Where was that just thrown out the window? Because if you are, and again, at the end of the day, whatever you feel about black on black crime and what goes on in the black communities, I'm 99% sure that the reason we are protesting is not because of anything other than Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. And what do all three of them have in common? They were killed in the last month. We are arguing life or death. So to me, there's no straddling the fence. There's no confusion. There's nothing to be confused about. This is not Trump versus Biden. We're not arguing like political stances. I write people off for that, but will write you off way harder for Black Lives Matter. You can be a Republican, and I'm gonna just, I just won't deal with you as much. You won't be fully canceled. You're on like a pause for life, but you are fully canceled if you do not understand the necessity to change the way that we are perceived in this country as a threat, as resisting, as an animal, as whatever else, because of the fact that we're Black. That is, to me, there's something off on a human level. Because if that's your child, if you're, a lot of these people have kids, or they're married, or they're, whatever, you have nieces or nephews, would you be arguing the same thing? How would you feel if that's your husband under a police officer's knee? If that's your brother going for a jog, getting gunned down, never to come home again? If that's your sister who's been working her butt off, she's an EMT, she goes home, she thinks she's done for the day, and breathes her last breaths because cops come busting into her door and riddle her with bullets. How would that make you feel? Okay, didn't think it was okay for you, so why is it okay for them? That's the issue. And it's ignorant, and it's honestly disgusting to watch people that at the end of the day disagree with the fact that we're arguing to be able to have the opportunity to live. We're arguing to be able to live. Nothing else but to live. God forbid.
And Renee, we got to think about the psychological standpoint too. People who come from nothing and they finally get money. And again, they think that they're superior. They think because I have this, I have that, I have this luxury. But you made a good point. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your cousin, it could be your lover, it could be anybody. It does not matter who you are. What's wrong is wrong, and what's right is right. And everything that's been happening to Black people is simply wrong. This stuff is being recorded. It's being recorded. So how can you fix your mouth to say, well, they're looting Gucci? Do you not know what Gucci? I don't care
about Gucci.
Okay, because Gucci don't care about us. Gucci putting out blackface stuff.
Thank you. The
but you worried about
we were having all last year.
Yeah, but you worried about people looting Gucci. You worried about people looting, and again, looting is wrong. I am not saying that looting is right, but what I'm saying is you all are mad about buildings that can be rebuilt. Y'all are mad about big time stores or franchises that's only paying their employees $12 to $15 an hour, working them overtime. That can easily rebuild everything that's been destroyed. But can a life be taken back? No.
I'll take it a step further. People are saying, why are there so many people protesting and there's a pandemic going on? You're risking your life. I'm sorry. Every day I wake up, I'm risking my life. Please don't get it twisted. And it's not just a racial thing. Like, I openly said this. There are enough things in this world to be scared about. I have cancer that's hereditary in my family and heart disease. I'm a woman, so I have to be mindful when I'm walking by myself to make sure I'm on alert so nobody tries to do anything to me. I'm Black, so I have to be There's enough in this world to be mindful of and scary of, that it's not just the fact that at the end of the day, we are focused on a pandemic. The pandemic is like the easiest of all the things we got to battle. We're battling enough hatred, death, illness, racism, sexism, enough in this world. So I'm sorry. Yes, in a sense, of course, the pandemic is risking your life, but also it's risking your life not to protest, for this to continue, and for this cycle that we see of lives being lost. And like you said, we're fortunate because they're being recorded. But but I think it was Will Smith or someone that said, this is, or maybe it was Chance, I don't know who it was. This is not new. It's just now we're recording it. Like, don't act like this just started happening. Oh, it's just popped up. No, this has always been happening. How many times did families have a loved one go out only to never return home? And you have no idea what happened to them until someone saw them hanging from a tree. You know, this is nothing new. It's just that we now have social media. We now have phones that people can quickly pull out and record to capture it, to share it, to make someone a hashtag, to make this go viral, to make it go around. Otherwise, it'd be the same as what it was in the past. So it is very ignorant in the sense of like, people want to act like, oh, why are you so upset? Why are you so mad? Why are you protesting during a pandemic? Because I want to live. So I'll take my chance with COVID-19. I'm tired of battling racism though.
Yes.
And the truth is, like, we have to deal with this all the time. Like, whatever's caught on camera, that's just a fraction of what's really going on. Whatever's reported is always just a fraction of what's really going on. I want to close out on this and get you guys' thoughts. It seems like every time a black person is killed, so from Trayvon to Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, we see social unrest, we see rioting, we see protest. This one feels different. But do you think that we're going to see any short-term change? No.
Honestly, I'll say that I do think that with everything happening in mass and it's going on, it should and is going to inspire more people to say, obviously, we need to go out and vote, right? But taking it a step further with those actions, aside from just voting, don't just vote on the president. Vote for who your local officials are. Yes. Who's your mayor? Who's your alderman? Who's your senator? Who's in the House of Reps for you? Make sure that you're paying attention to all the things that they are doing and that we can shift our attention there. Now, as terms of if things begin to happen on a wide scale for change, I'm going to say it like this into all the people that I've been talking to this week. If it don't, this ain't going to be nothing compared to what's going to happen after this. Like, if any of them cops get off of these charges,
preach.
If Trump is reelected, say whatever you want to say right now, it's going to be way worse. That's all I got to say.
I could not agree more. I think, Rodney King, you look at over the course of our history with the amount of times that police officers have gotten off charges or just the person. It's not always police officers, because Trayvon Martin, sometimes it's the neighborhood watch. When people get off for these charges, we do see everyone's up in arms. But if they're not found guilty, there's going to be problems. Like, the world is going to literally blow up. But I think to your other point, Alex, about why this is so much bigger, to me, looking at that video compared to what we've seen in the past, when someone gets gunned down, there's no making any excuses. So let me just preface it with that. But you can say you're just reacting. You're scared. You shoot. You pull the trigger. You didn't mean to do it. But to kneel on a man's neck for 9 minutes, and if they had stopped at any point, he'd be alive. Any point. Like, you had plenty of opportunity to stop, to check his pulse, to put him in the cop car and take him down the station like you're supposed to do. You had plenty of opportunities for this result not to happen. Breonna Taylor, okay, you obviously were wrong. You bust in the door, you shoot her, but it happened so quickly. Still wrong, but I could see there's no turning back. When a man is handcuffed on the ground, begging for his life, telling you he can't breathe, you're on his neck, you're literally choking him. You might as well put your hands around his neck. You're literally choking, or put a pillow on his face. You're smothering him. And at no time in that 9 minutes does anyone say, stop. That is why you cannot argue this. You can't say he looked like he was resisting. You can't say he looked like he was a threat. You cannot make any excuse for why this happened. So there's no way that anyone, because in the past, they wanted to say, oh, Ahmaud Arbery was carrying a gun, or Breonna, whatever. You want to make excuses? There's no excuse for this. So if they get off and they're not found guilty, it's going to be world war. It's going to be insane. It's going to be wild. It's going to be protesting. The world is literally going to go crazy because this is murder. They didn't put Derek Chauvin for first-degree murder because they can't prove intent or whatever else. They all need to be charged, and they need to be found guilty in jail. No firing with pension, in jail like every other criminal that's ever murdered someone. So they better come correct. Honestly, I'm scared to death on what will happen if they don't. If any of them get off, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Nia, what do you think? Are we in for some change?
If we are in, well, I'm gonna be positive and say we are in for change, because this right here, guys, was a cultural shift. This death, we say stuff hit different, but this hit different. Let me tell you why. Number one, we are sitting in a pandemic, so everybody has time to unplug and think. There are 40 million people right now unemployed. So every day people have time to protest. Every day people have time to hold people accountable. At this point now, as a Black culture, we cannot take our foot off of their necks. We have to keep holding people accountable. And now the world has realized the power of social media, the power of this now, the power of our phones, how we can pull our phones out and record, because guess what? Recordings don't lie.
Right.
Cameras don't lie. Everything that you see is real life. So you have no choice but to make change now. And if you don't, you know what's gonna be the consequences. And as Renee said, I'm scared to death, because if we do not get justice as Black people, or change does not come, it is going to be hell. It's going to be hell. And I see these younger kids now, like even kids behind me, you know, they different. You have kids going against their parents saying racism is wrong. Kids going out to protest. They have the power of social media now. So that's where they get all their information from, the internet. They see it's wrong. So yes, do I see changes coming? For sure. Will it happen in the next year? No. Will it happen in the next 2 years? There's going to be a lot of different changes for sure. And a lot more people are going to be exposed. I always say this, 2020 has been the year of exposure. There's so many people getting exposed for so many different things. You can no longer hide from racism. If so, get off social media. Don't have a job. Don't be an everyday citizen then, because you can't keep running from the situation anymore. It's real. It's out there. It needs to be squashed. It needs to be done. We need to have that tough conversation as a nation. And y'all need to respect Black people, because we bring value to this world, whether if you want to say it or not, because we all know the truth. And we all know that this world don't go round without us and our culture and our hard work and what we've built for this country. So change is definite. It's a shift. Nothing's going to be the same after this. There is no normal. Everything is going to be different now. So it's going to be a shift for sure. Definitely. It'll be different when my kids are growing up. That's for sure.
Can I just add something that, like, I know we've been saying a lot of things and addressing all the elephants in the room. I will say it's time, as we keep talking about, for people to hold each other accountable. You know, it's time for people to speak up. No more being uncomfortable. 2020, everybody keeps jokingly saying this was supposed to be my year, but look all that happened. No, this is our year. It's a year for the world as a whole to turn a page and turn a corner and have these conversations that we should have been having years and centuries in the past. So it is absolutely time for us to make change happen. And we all play a part of it. I'm terrified of protesting. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't do well in those situations. But there's ways to protest. You don't have to physically be out with a poster to protest. You don't have to physically be out marching to make change happen. So find your way, whatever it may be, to make an impact, because we have to celebrate the small victories. And it's like a wave. It's like a small ripple effect. You know, everybody does a little something each day, and eventually the wave will catch on enough that we'll be able to make change happen. And it will take time, but we've got to keep moving forward. Like Dr. King said, progress forward. Even if you're crawling, walking, whatever it is, we got to continue moving forward towards change.
Definitely.
I agree. Whatever you can contribute to the cause to impact positive change, whether that's marching, donating money, whatever it is, celebrities speaking out, using your platform, whatever it is, I think we all have something we can contribute. And Melvin, you talked about voting. Voting locally is key to a lot of change. And we turn out big time for the presidential races. And that's usually when everyone pays attention. I want to get people thinking. I want to close on this, because I talk to people who are Republican, but they say, I don't have any friends that voted for Trump. I don't know who voted for Trump. 57% of white people voted for Trump. 57% of white people voted for Trump. 29% of Hispanics voted for Trump. And I'm thinking, y'all 29% of y'all voted for Trump.
Who y'all think
26%
next?
26% of Asian Americans voted for Trump, and then 36% of other people of color voted for Trump. And I'm just thinking, like, did you all just think that he's going to come after black folks or make things harder for us? Like, pay attention to what's going on. Your vote matters. So regardless if you believe in someone in their fiscal policy or their criminal justice policies, like, they still may not be right. You can't justify voting for somebody just because you agree with one or two things or even their entire platform. If they're racist, they're sexist, and the evidence is out there, regardless if they've been convicted, then you have a responsibility to vote for somebody else. So I did want to close on that. I want to thank all three of you for jumping on here because this was such a positive conversation for me. I genuinely enjoyed it. Melvin, please tell everybody how they can find you, all your work, everything that you bring to the table.
Everybody, you can find me, Melvin Taylor, I all across social media. Somebody took Melvin Taylor Jr., so I was like, forget it, 2 I's at the end of it. You'll be able to find any of my stuff from my radio show. It's every single Monday night here in New York. The sketch and improv comedy that I do, the acting that I do, the writing that I do. Everything is on there. Just type in Melvin Taylor, you'll come across it.
Nia, how can everybody find you?
All social media at Nia on Air. It is Nia with an N, not an M. NIA on Air. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram. Search me on YouTube. All that good stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
And Renee.
Alex, thank you for having us on. And yeah, you guys can definitely follow. I'm Renee P. Wash on Twitter, Renee P. Washington on Facebook and Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. And my show, Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington, and my new show, Redefining Us, we get into all these topics as well. So we got to keep the conversation going. That's all we can do.
Yes,
love to see it.
Well said. Everybody watching or everyone that'll listen, please follow these intelligent, bright creatives out there. They're making change, and we all hope to impact positive change. So if you're watching this, you know who I am. You know how to find me. So until next time, folks, I'm out.